Kuinak lisna, kuinak lasna, kuin diodis. Bro yatin yakna, lo kuin nimbi, kui si, kui plon dobla, buya las yo. Buya lo yala Juan zo la zomen, Juan tukie, Juan du yap, nam zin san diem biol, len yoyin.
The other Mexicans are part of this larger story where 10% of the population of Mexico has decided to vote with their feet and go pursue their dream in the north. Especially migrants such as the Zapotecs and the Mixtecs, they have migrated not only decades, they were part of the Bracero program, but also traditionally this has been a very highly mobile population. The movement of people, the movement of Oaxaqueños, the movement of Mixtecs and Zapotecs has been taking place for literally centuries. And just this is a new moment of that tradition. This is a new moment of that mobilization of resources, of that expansion of knowledge. And of course, this new massive movement, this massive exodus of Oaxacans to the United States takes place under very different conditions. This migration is sustained, is permanent, and it has changed both the communities of origin and also the communities of destination. And in the case of Mexico and the United States, is that closest, like how integrated these two countries, these two economies are, that provides that context. And then people, with their own decisions, mobilizing their own resources, risking their lives, are the basis for this movement. So we're very fortunate that in Southern California, these ancient people, Zapotecs and Mixtecos, have been able to formalize, to institutionalize the networks that allow this long-term migration, but also they have transformed their community institutions, and they're sharing that with us here in the United States.
Ángeles cantan y alaban a Dios. Los ángeles cantan y alaban a Dios.
Many people think of immigration as a very chaotic process. It is not possible for an immigrant, for a Mexican, to wake up in Mexico one day and think, hey, I'm going to go to Santa Monica and make a living there. You have to have the know-how. You have to have the resources. You have to know people. You have to have the ambassadors who are going to teach you where to get a job. You're going to have the contacts of where you're going to stay, the people that are going to support you while you get a job. All of this is done within the family networks. These family networks are the pillars that sustain immigration. A fancy name for this is a migratory network. So there are very specific people that have forged those migratory networks, that have accumulated the knowledge, that have accumulated the resources to be able to travel 2,000 miles and being able to engage, get a job, and stay here permanently.
Of hardworking women and men who still practice the guelaguetza, mutual help. That is what we come to share with all of you today. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy your ceremony.
Truths about migration is that people not only bring their workforce, but also bring who they are, bring their histories, their culture. The culture that gives them a structure, a place in this society, a place in the universe. Each of these indigenous Mexicans that comes here comes and brings with them millennium culture, cultural traditions that have endured thousands of years. And they come here, and their challenge is how they remain true to themselves, to who they are as indigenous, but also how they transform those cultures to adapt to this new environment. So we're witnessing with the immigration of Mixtecs, Zapotecos, Triquis from Oaxaca, Mayans from Chiapas and Yucatan. We're witnessing an amazing process of cultural adaptation and cultural diversity. And it is in these kinds of festivals where you start thinking how interconnected this metropolis, this global metropolis, is to different parts of the world. Here in Los Angeles, we have the largest Oaxacan community outside of Mexico. And this large community has been able to settle down, has been able to not only survive, make a living, but also has been able to thrive. And it is because there's a certain inclination, I think, in California, a certain inclination in the Los Angeles region, tolerance to diversity, but also opening for these immigrants to express who they are.
Ikuni na santi na sio sikoniko visana Ikuni na taba na rukuro sikoniko visaka nana Nyaribi na nyu sabi Sunantali kwa anja shini na ribi se sabi Na kantu mio na kunta ini rukuro Na tanto sorene kisho nya kujo ojo Samara kantu sa kunta simio Sabi na koshini na nya Na ribi back yo the mother ancestors Everything was in vain And I cannot explain all this deep eternal pain I come from people the rain We have come to reclaim our identity that was shattered broken and stained, and they say that we are savages, that we are insane. Then let me release this rage.
Here we are. This is our contribution to this global city. This is how we make this global city a world city, a diverse city, and this is our contribution. And our contribution has been not only to survive, but to thrive and to share with us who we are, all our cultural expression.
Personas que nos aborrecen y no nos quieren. Pobres de ellos no conocen el valor verdadero de mi gente. Porque nuestro pueblo es una verdadera maravilla. No hablo de dinero, hablo de lo rico que nuestra comida, que echarle ganas y nuestra lengua que mantenerla viva. Por la memoria de nuestros ancestros, que no se vaya a la deriva. Intentamente sangrar tu alma, hecho pedazos porque nos colonizaron.
And I think that's a piece, a dimension of migration that is missing in the current political debate. We tend to think of immigration in very shallow ways, not deep ways. We tend to think of whether immigration is good or bad for this country, whether immigrants are going to be able to fully assimilate and become like us. We tend to think of immigrants used as workers, taking away work from U.S. citizens. And ultimately, I think the narrative that has become more popular is how immigrants have become a threat. Immigrants as terrorists, immigrants as delinquents.
Quisieron borrar nuestra identidad, pero perdieron. Aquí hay personas que nos aborrecen y no nos quieren. Pobres de ellos no conocen el valor verdadero de mi gente. Porque nuestro pueblo es una verdadera maravilla. No hablo de dinero, hablo de lo rico que nuestra comida.
Immigrants have transformed who we are as a country, as a nation. Not only they're willing and able to reclaim their roots, but also they're so much willing to embrace American culture and American values. As we see these immigrants working, starting their own business, they have fully embraced and appreciate the new opportunities that they find here in the United States, the way they run their business, the way they harvest the food for us. When we see these immigrants bending over, collecting the fresh fruit and vegetables that we eat, almost all the workforce harvesting the food that we eat is entirely immigrant. And one important component of this workforce are indigenous people. It is projected that in 40 years, 1 in 3 U.S. People living in the United States will be of Latino, Hispanic origin. And it's interesting because the story so far has been the story of Mexicans as we think about them as homogeneous people. Mexico and the process of migration of Mexicans to the United States is a multilingual, multi-ethnic phenomenon. People don't know this, but Mexico is one of the most diverse countries in the world, ethnically and linguistically. There are 68 indigenous languages spoken in Mexico. There are close to 20% of the population who identifies themselves as indigenous. So this massive migration of Mexicans to the United States are composed by other Mexicans that are not your stereotypical Mexican, mestizo, Spanish speaker. This migration also is very diverse. And with this massive flow of people that have come to the United States, and especially to places like California, places like Riverside, places like Oxnard and the Central Valley, are a huge number of Mexican indigenous people. And I think in the experience of Mexican indigenous people, we can see both the challenges and also the advantages of creating a multilingual, multi-ethnic space.
Se están trabando como gallos finos, señores. Unos gallos, aquí no corre. ¿Quién sabe cómo vaya a quedar el otro compromiso que viene? 45.
De la radio indígena yo ando con Kishindonia so con $1 y $1 o $1 que Kishindonia calle 5 nya 2 nya 520 calle 5 yo ya sin placita yo nya yo mi no que mi comida yo dentro na atuna kindo mi so yo ando con Kishindo sin yendo ando ya dico mi so na taka ne con cachon sin radio vaya to con a estimindo sin con cachon sin radio ya ne ka agora sa basi durante ta sai ando sin yo dentro na con dato no yo onzi anzi ko ka
I have colleagues who come from Europe, from France, from Germany, from the Netherlands. They come and participate in conferences. They come and visit us here in Los Angeles. And they're always fascinated by this multicultural, multilingual space that is Los Angeles. They always ask me, how do you all manage to live in such a diverse place? They can go to witness a Guelaguetza festival in East LA. They can go savor Korean barbecue. They can go to a Greek festival, all in the same day, in the same space.
Molió el chile, le agregó el chile.
And I think that's one of the unique challenges of present-day United States that can look at Los Angeles as a model. The future has arrived in Los Angeles. The future face of the United States looks like Los Angeles, with people from all over the world making a living here, working, living, but also expressing who they are.
Agua es picuí. Calabaza es riqui. Tortilla es shita. Limón. Y el último chile verde es raaqui. Muy bien, muchas gracias.
40 years later, we have a demographic revolution. This second generation were born in the United States. And they're really transforming and posing, I think, new challenges for the process of adaptation of these immigrants. A lot of the cultural institutions, political organizations that were built by the first generation have to adapt one more time now to incorporate the second generation.
So, and commercialized it to be sold to tourists.
It is interesting to see this experiment, this natural experiment of how these sons and daughters of indigenous migrants are going to become incorporated into the larger American society. And also it's going to be very interesting to see what is going to be their contribution, how at the same time that they're making their own way into the larger American society, how they're going to transform America itself.
Smash, right? Katashu. Y katashu. Tinanapoa. Tinanapoa is what? tinana. Tomatoes, right, Christina? You're using tinana in your book, huh? Tinana. Tinana sol. It's that green tomato that has that outer layer.
It's not unusual to talk to some of these second generation indigenous kids and for them to tell us, you know, I'm a Oaxacan born in Los Angeles, I'm a Mixteco born in Fresno. And we have also a lot of different political, cultural, and social expressions by this second generation. They have followed different paths. Many of them have become professional. They're thriving as scholars, as academics, as lawyers. Many of them are thriving based on a very strong sense of identity. So they become lawyers and decide to help the community that they come from. They become professors and decide to teach the history and the culture of indigenous migrants. But I think among the most dynamic group are the cultural workers, this cohort of people who are producing a lot of culture and art. And they're really struggling with this sense of identity, who they are and what is their place in the world, how they relate to the culture of their parents, how they relate to the culture of their peers, how they relate to mainstream American culture. And this is the perennial story of immigrants to this country. There's no questions that the process of immigration changes you dramatically, because when you cross a border, you know, you experience that existential crisis that you cease to be what you thought you were as soon as you cross the border. You know, in Mexico, you never question your ethnic or racial identity. Many times you say, well, I'm just Mexican, I'm just Oaxaqueño. As soon as you cross the border, you are assigned a different identity. All of a sudden, you become a racial minority. Oaxaqueños feel that they made it when the city council has officially recognized the Heritage Month, the Oaxacan Heritage Month, during mid-July to mid-August. So the future of that generation, where they're going to be able to truly cross many different borders, and they're really going to be able to belong to many different communities. In a way, they have become very cosmopolitan because they're able to transcend different worlds. They're able to thrive within their own indigenous migrant community, to also invent and create something new. And that's, I think, the new face of America.
Los pueblos hacemos rendirle un homenaje a través de lo que nosotros traemos como pueblos, que es nuestra música, a este lugar sagrado. Y si no nos paramos a defender nuestras tierras, nuestras aguas, en nuestros pueblos, esto será nuestro futuro. Un edificio sin alma para solo el capitalismo y las corporaciones. Y por eso hacemos este caminado cada año.
For the second generation, it's a little bit different. They grow up, especially in Los Angeles, in these global metropolis. There are different kinds of identities that they can develop. And it is interesting to see some of these cultural organizers be able to understand the cultural expressions of these communities, but also to be able to question each one of those communities. Express the challenges in 3 languages, in English and Spanish and Mixteco. The second generation has been able to fully integrate and fully be successful. This first generation, who was hungry to move up the economic ladder, who was hungry to really thrive and pursue a dream, has given a leg up to the second generation. It seems to me that they have solved a riddle of our model age, where they want to have it both ways. They want to be equals to other people living in Los Angeles, but also they want to say, I want to be different. I want to maintain a sense of my own history, a sense of my own culture, my language.
Ruyuben dani zayosho, di jagukania. Najiegi gubiku, najieni sarutagunash kije. Gidiruani sado bidiene sidigie. Najiesh kipine kashpa, shigala arizaja nagijilayu.
For farm workers, I think the dilemma is even tougher because, especially in California, the economy is thriving, but it's not thriving really in these traditional jobs. We know that agriculture is not growing, is not providing as many jobs as other sectors in the economy. So really the number of jobs available has been steady and is not growing. Who's going to provide with the next generation of farm workers? And I think that's one of the main dilemmas that we face in the current immigration debate. We know that the aspirations of the second generation, the sons and daughters of these farm workers, is not in the fields per se. Well, but maybe some of the second generation will go to work in the fields. But a lot of farmers are answering to this dilemma by importing more guest workers. This is going to be a challenge looking into the future, and this is a larger challenge of agricultural communities, I think, in California. It's a challenge, and we don't know where that's going to be. And it's hard to see for them a way out of that work that is, many people think of that work as unskilled labor, and therefore the wages and working conditions are very harsh. But when you see them working, you realize that you need a lot of skill to perform, to do that kind of job. And that generation, I think, has different challenges than second generation. This first generation of immigrants is very embedded in the old traditional networks that they build. They've been able to really transplant many practices from the community to the United States. But also their world has become very much reduced to the fields, to the agricultural parts of town. And these are the areas that are experiencing a lot of challenges, economic challenges. There's high concentration of poverty in these areas. There is a huge amount of conflict between expansion of the LA as a metropolis, encroaching in agricultural lands in, for example, places like Oxnard. As you drive on Highway 101, you can see auto malls on the one side, and on the other side you see the reducing space that agriculture occupies there in that city. And so for the first generation, that's a challenge. The work is reduced. Also, there's a lot of more competition, especially in California. There's a lot of guest workers that come as temporary workers from Mexico on these short-term visas. And they provide a competition for other Mexicans who are established here as migrants. The future for that older generation is a dilemma, how they're going to adapt, how they're going to thrive, how they're going to keep their jobs, because it's not a matter of them wanting to, but there are larger trends that is affecting their future prospects. Of course, there are many challenges. These are immigrants who came and got the worst paid jobs, the toughest jobs, but at the same time they got opportunities. And a lot of these immigrants and their kids have take advantage of those opportunities, and they have thrived. I think that one key lesson from indigenous migration is the ability to both have a strong sense of identity, of belonging to the immigrant community, but at the same time become incorporated, become part of a larger global diverse community. And I think that's a very positive lesson of our contemporary story of not only California but of the United States. In the case of indigenous migrants, it's a good example of how they have been able to fully be incorporated into the fabric of California, the fabric of the communities where they are. We have seen some of the best examples here in California, and to hear the second generation, the sons and daughters of these immigrants, being able to navigate these multiple spaces, I think points out to the future. And the future has arrived, and it's a very positive one.
Aku cuevan di Indoña New, Unani no Maji Dominguez Maceda, Shinda Vinica Nundo Ikishando, Vico Nanununduba, Vici, Shai Shinu Okokuya, Yanuka Nuvico, Minu Fresno, California, Shinda Vinin Doña Kishindota, Kuya Vico Joo, Shinda Vinin di Qui Nativi Yasi, Nashita Shaa. Tanakusi iniyo. Kwaya ando kuindoña kasha ando a kuindona chunu na niuyo. Nyakama kunika shindo shinda vinindo.
Kerenga Nikuru Arecana Arregelaguetza 2018 Chukui Migrisela Díaz López Canele Nikiniasle Guikirane Kunule Chachun Oaxaca Kurani Gachetkiane Kamistani Kiniasle Fiesta.
Chango dale Jennifer Vázquez García. Shkishgo porteo te leo compay. Levelani, Chenries, Cheve de Fresno, California. Cuando quiero nacuilarani, Chena Menze Cheve, la Guelaguetza, California 2018. Cuareco Verara Manjala. Ya la gamenta y Chefurtin, va lo lava ni tui melor narsentio, narsnashenjov, Nelusha Shwajulibisha. Ready. Banurek is a larvisha. Ranakve con a banal yakinave, Redani Golcheve, Bananga Lisbera with Isheve, Yaluvera Core, Loris Meve can go to ladre, Nespaleve Melu y Loris Medine, Skishgo.
Buenos días y gracias por acompañarnos a la Guelaguetza California 2018. Mi nombre es Ale Vázquez y espero que disfruten de los bailes y música tradicional con Oaxaca con su familia y amigos. Es una tradición de hace muchos años que nuestros ancestros nos han dejado. En aquellos tiempos iban al cerro de Fortina a ofrendar a Sendiot, la diosa de maíz, y compartían música, bailes y comida de cada región del estado de Oaxaca. Bienvenidos y disfruten la fiesta.
Thank you for coming to the Guelaguetza 2018. My name is Renata Guisar. I know you enjoy seeing these traditional dances and music with your families and friends. It's a tradition from many years ago that our ancestors had left us to enjoy. In those times, they would go to the Cerro de Fortín, the goddess of coins. They shared music, dances, and food from different regions of the state of Oaxaca.